NBC is reporting that the White House is considering negotiating directly with Hamas to free 5 American hostages in Gaza if the ongoing ceasefire talks with Israel did not succeed. Meanwhile, the Israeli general in charge of the Gaza Strip area has resigned over his role in the failures that led to the October 7th massacre. Meanwhile, the IDF is continuing its operations throughout the Gaza Strip, eliminating Hamas terrorists and terror tunnels. All the details are in the following report.
Intense fighting continued throughout the Gaza Strip today on day 248 of the war. The IDF announced that its forces struck Hamas terror infrastructure in the central Gaza Strip, including underground infrastructures, and targeted numerous Hamas terrorists. The army said it is continuing to uncover and destroy shafts leading to Hamas terror tunnels. Female fighters from Unit 414 identified 2 armed men trying to enter an underground tunnel. Shortly after the identification, Air Force strikes eliminated the terrorists. Meanwhile, Hamas released more propaganda footage Sunday, showing terrorists targeting Israeli tanks and soldiers in Rafah. The footage, shot from the terrorists' point of view, shows Hamas firing rockets at Israeli forces. And on Sunday, the Israeli general in charge of the Gaza Strip area, Brigadier General Avi Rosenfeld, announced his resignation over his role in the failures that led to the October 7th massacre. In a letter penned to his superiors in the IDF, he said that he failed in his life's mission to protect the Gaza border communities. This marks the second high-profile resignation of an IDF officer to resign over October 7th. The first was the chief of military intelligence. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is due back in the region today, visiting Egypt and then Israel, where he will meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant in an attempt to secure a hostage and ceasefire deal. And U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said in an interview with ABC News that the U.S. is continuing to urge Israel to operate differently to avoid the loss of life of Palestinian civilians in Gaza, though stressed the war is ongoing because of Hamas.
We are concerned about every loss of life, including in this operation. Anytime civilians are killed, we're concerned. Of course we are. That's why we want this war to end. The only way to get all of the hostages out and to end any more civilian casualties in Gaza is to get to a comprehensive ceasefire and hostage agreement. So the two are not distinct issues. They're connected issues. How do we end the death of civilians in Gaza, Martha? There is only one way. It is to get to a comprehensive ceasefire and hostage deal. That's what President Biden laid out. And that is, again, what he is reinforcing today, because Hamas accepting that deal would bring an end to the tragedy in Gaza.
As such, the United States resumed its humanitarian aid drops into northern Gaza. The U.S. military said a cargo plane on Sunday dropped more than 10 metric tons of rations. According to U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, to date, the U.S. has airdropped more than 1,050 metric tons of humanitarian assistance, in addition to the aid delivered via the man-made pier built by the U.S., which has now resumed operations after detaching from the coast.
As 4 hostages were rescued in a daring operation by the IDF, it has now been confirmed that 3 of them were held by journalist Abdallah al-Jamal in his family home. The family of Abdallah al-Jamal, doctor and contributor to Al Jazeera and the Palestine Chronicle, was holding Almog Meir John, Andrei Koslov, and Shlomi Ziv captive. He was killed by the IDF when he attempted to prevent the rescue of the hostages. Abdallah al-Jamal was previously a spokesperson for the Hamas-run labor ministry in Gaza and continued to contribute writings to the Palestine Chronicle during the war, even while imprisoning hostages in his home. The Israel Defense Forces confirmed in a statement that al-Jamal had been holding the 3 hostages in a civilian area in Nuseirat, adding that this is further proof that the Hamas terror organization uses the civilian population as human shields. The IDF also posted on X asking Al Jazeera, "What's this terrorist doing on your website?" The Qatar-based outlet Al Jazeera confirmed that al-Jamal had contributed to the publications, but said he was not a paid employee of the network. In a move that many anticipated, Israeli Minister Benny Gantz announced his resignation from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's emergency government on Sunday. Despite the ruling coalition maintaining a 64-seat majority, Gantz's exit removes the only centrist voice from Netanyahu's far-right coalition. ILTV's editor-in-chief, Maayan Hoffman, has more details.
Israeli Minister Benny Gantz resigned from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's emergency government in a significant political shift. The announcement came Sunday evening, marking the exit of the only centrist voice from Netanyahu's far-right coalition and amid a prolonged conflict in Gaza. Netanyahu responded with a brief statement urging Gantz not to, quote, abandon the front, but reassured the coalition's parliamentary majority of 64 out of 120 Knesset seats remained secure. During his exit speech, Gantz accused Netanyahu of hindering progress toward true victory in the ongoing war.
לצערי, נתניהו מונע מאיתנו להתקדם לניצחון האמיתי שהוא ההצדקה למחיר הכואב והמתמשך. לכן, אנחנו עוזבים היום את ממשלת החירום. בלב כבד, אך בלב שלם.
Gantz called for elections to be held in the fall, urging Netanyahu to set an agreed-upon date for them to occur. Gantz had presented Netanyahu with a June 8 deadline to outline a clear post-war strategy for Gaza, where Israel has been conducting its military offensive against Hamas for the past 8 months. Netanyahu dismissed this request shortly after it was issued. On Sunday, Gantz criticized Netanyahu's cabinet for allowing politics to cloud strategic decisions, stating that quitting while hostages were still in Gaza and soldiers were fighting was an excruciating decision. Some 116 of the 252 people kidnapped by Hamas remain in captivity. Gantz and his number 2, former IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Gadi Eisenkot, were both members of the war cabinet. Gantz was initially expected to announce his resignation on Saturday, but delayed it following the dramatic rescue of 4 hostages by Israeli forces. His exit now leaves Netanyahu's government much more reliant on hardliners. Gantz's move could be a pivotal moment in Israeli politics, further shifting the balance of power within Netanyahu's coalition. What will be the final impact? Only time will tell.
What do Israelis think about Benny Gantz's decision to withdraw from Benjamin Netanyahu's government? Let's take a look.
Minister Benny Gantz's resignation has sparked widespread discussion across Israel, leaving many citizens uncertain about the government's future. Reuters interviewed residents of Tel Aviv to gather their opinions on Gantz's decision. Here are their thoughts.
I think Gantz leaving the government is I think maybe it can be a positive thing. I think using always the card of now it's not the time to be political is dangerous because it's been already 8 months of war. So we can't stay in the status quo all the time. And if it will evoke some kind of change, then it will be a positive thing, and we can only know when time comes, I guess.
I believe that it's good that Gantz is leaving the government now. I believe that he's doing what he thinks is best for the country, and his intentions are right. And maybe this will bring to election soon.
To be honest, I believe Gantz shouldn't leave the government during a war, a crisis, tough time for our country, probably more than ever resolve the hostages. I don't think that someone from the government should leave us at the time of war. I believe we should be united and should be staying strong as a nation